All right, so we are going to continue to look at these different representation of functions, but in this video, we are specifically going to zoom in on graphs. So functions are not on a coordinate grid. So the definition of the function is still the same. Every x value or input has its own unique y value or output. But when we're looking at graphs, there's a trick that can help us, and that trick is called the vertical line test. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. But remember, when I'm looking at these graphs, I first need to ask myself, is it a function or not a function? And then, if it is a function, only if it is, then I'll ask myself, is it linear or non-linear? So what is the vertical line test? The vertical line test tells me if I draw an imaginary line, like I just did there, or like I just did here, okay, and I look at how many times it is hitting the function itself. So here's my imaginary line, and I look at how many places it's hitting this function, and it's hitting it once. If I draw an imaginary line, then it hits it twice, it is not a function. So in this case, this is a function. And I can either say because it passes the vertical line test, or the same thing we've been saying, every x has its own y. The only thing a vertical line test does is tell me if those x values are being repeated with different outputs. It's the same thing, just a different representation of it. So let's try it again with this one. All right, so I draw that vertical line and I see it hits once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So that means it is not a function because the same x value has multiple y values or outputs. All right, let's do the vertical line test one more time. Let's say I test here, and I can test anywhere on the line. I test here, and I see it hits it once, and this is a function, and I would write my same reasoning. All right, so now the second part of this is I'm asking myself, if it is a function, is it linear or nonlinear? So we said that this first example was a function. So is it a linear or nonlinear function? So I can tell that it is nonlinear because it is not a straight line. Number 2 was not a function, so we cannot answer part B, so we're going to write neither. And lastly, example 3, is it a function? We said yes, it was a function. Is it linear or nonlinear? It is linear because it is a straight line. All right, so why don't you pause the video here and try the next few examples. Let's try the next example, and then I'm going to play back the video and you are going to get to see it in action. All right, so at this point you tried this out. You should have seen that if I draw a vertical line, it only hits once. So it is a function. All right, and it is a non-linear function because it is not a straight line. All right, why don't you try the next one? Okay, at this point, you tested your vertical line. It is not a function. So that means I cannot answer my second part. All right, so you can go ahead and try the next two on your own. I'm not going to go over it in the video, but I would like to see it completed. Remember, you are allowed to use these homeworks on your next quiz. All right, see you tomorrow.